The year is 2019. This is my Toronto to Montreal trip. I took my bike apart, packed it up. I paid $50 for a rideshare to drive me to Toronto, which I arrived at midnight. So the next day, I went to see a friend. I went to Fernando Reyes, a friend of mine from a long time ago, and he did what he does best. A beautiful tattoo across my back that says Warrior Goddess, and one down my arm, which is a phoenix. And I spent the whole day getting this tattoo. And then we hung out with my friend Carlos. And Carlos and I decided after the tattoo we'd get something to eat and climb a tree. Why not? So the day with my Latino salsa friends from back in the day of climbing trees and getting a tattoo. Then in the evening I got to catch up with my cousin Warren and my girl Minetta. And we had some drinks at an outside cafe downtown Toronto. And then I went to my girlfriend Tanja's. I stayed the night with Tanja, and in the morning, I was off. I got a GO train in the morning to Oshawa, where I got to see another friend and her daughter, which was lovely. And then I set off to do my trip from Toronto to Montreal. So the trip to Toronto was great. I had a wonderful time, and now it's time to get on my bike and start pedaling. So I'm going from Oshawa to Presqu'île Provincial Park. It's about a 110-kilometer ride. My first stop is at a place called Beautiful Beach. And when I arrived at Beautiful Beach, it was lovely. I was able to take off my clothes, jump in the water, have a snack, and relax because I'd done 30 kilometers already. So that was great. Then I got on my bike for some hard pedaling and had supper at a place called Hope, which was also a cute little town. And then a lot more riding, and I kind of fell behind and the darkness came up quickly. At this point, I needed to find a place to put up my tent because it was very dark on those country roads. So I could hear the river alongside of me, and I just found one little way of taking my bike down onto the beach, and I just set up my tent on the rocks, and it really was beautiful. And when I woke up in the morning and saw where I actually had been sleeping, it was just the most perfect place. Right near the roaring, raging river, which doesn't turn off at night. And so the first day was pretty good. I was less than what I intended, but it was a good ride. So day two was great. I started off really good. I had my energy up, and I came upon this trail. It was called the Millennium Trail. And I got to be honest, it wasn't my favorite trail ever. It was really hard and monotonous, and there were parts of it that were rocks that were so big I had to get off my bike and actually walk through it for about a kilometer. And it had a lot of marshland, so there was a lot of insects, and it was a hard ride. And after my break, I got on again for a continuation of that trail, and then I crossed over a ferry, and I think that was the nicest part of day two, is getting on that ferry and just relaxing for a minute and and the sun was starting to come down. So when I got off the ferry, I know that I'm in that dusk time, and I've got to find a place to camp. So just like almost as if I knew where I was going, I just pulled into this lot, and behind these trees and among the tall grass, I put up my tent. No one bothered me. I was hidden from the street, and it felt pretty good. I watched the sun go down and just relaxed in my tent, and I got a really good night's sleep that night. So day two was great. Day three was probably one of my favorite days. It was like I had wings. I passed through the Kingston area and Thousand Island. I stopped off and had a beautiful lunch at this really cute place outside with a pizza oven. It was beautiful. And then I trekked on, and I just moved so fast. It was like the wind was probably at my back the whole time, if there was any. There was pavement. It was trail through town, so a lot of it was through places where people cycle a lot, and they took care of the bike path. So it was pretty amazing. And after already being on the road for 2 days and sleeping 2 nights in my tent, it was time for a shower. So I definitely wanted to have a hotel motel experience for the evening. What happened was I passed the town where I thought I would get a hotel, and there was nothing available, no vacancies. So I had to go a little further. And yes, again, I got caught in the night, and I was riding the country roads in complete darkness. Again, still didn't have the proper lighting, so it was a bit nerve-wracking. When cars came, I did the right thing. I pulled over and let them pass. When cars came towards me, it was blinding, but it's an old country road and there weren't many cars on the road. So finally made it to my motel. I think it cost about 75 bucks. And I got my shower for the first time on this trip. And it was a beautiful night in my hotel. And I got my fish and chips at night, which I worked really hard to get to this fish and chip place before they closed. So the highlight of that day was the quaint little place where I had lunch, the fish and chips, and then finally making it to the motel. Day 4 and 5 were just great. I got off to a good start after a beautiful sleep in the motel. A lot of this part of the trip was road. I did a lot of close secondary highway or service road cycling. That night, I wanted to get myself to a campground, which I had saw online, and I got myself a sub from Subway and some chocolate milk. And I set up my tent, and I slept very comfortably, knowing I was safe in a campground. It's called Glengarry Camp. And at that point, I really was only 40 kilometers from Montreal, so I stayed the night and then I got home quite fast. After I passed St. Anne in Montreal, I was already in Montreal. I decided to take the Montreal train home. So I just got on the train for the very last 10, 20 kilometers and just relaxed and thought about my whole trip, and it was wonderful. So from Toronto to Montreal, following the rivers, I I made a really wonderful trip. I would do it again. It's a 4 day trip. I spent an extra day, but I could have gone faster or harder and made it. But 4 days is about roughly what it would take to do Toronto to Montreal. It's a beautiful, beautiful ride.